Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of Dan and Kev's Wrestling Talk Show, where today we're going to be reviewing everything that's happened up to SmackDown in Madison Square Garden, because as we're recording this, it hasn't happened yet. So yeah, I think a good place to start, mate, would be, what do you think is going to happen later tonight at the Garden?
Well, hang on a second. There you go. Yeah, I'm expecting a lot to happen because you've got Brock Lesnar turning up, John Cena. So John Cena is supposed to be in a match with Finn Balor tonight.
Really?
Yeah. So you've got John Cena, Brock Lesnar, and obviously all the other people there as well. So yeah, they're going all out. It's called Super SmackDown. It's going to be interesting what they can fit into 2 hours, but
yeah.
The thing that's at the moment are advertised is Brock Lesnar's return and John Cena versus Finn Balor. That's what's advertised for tonight.
Do you think Finn is going to do the Demon?
Well, I don't know. Last week, obviously, we got the
teased it, didn't he? So, yeah.
I mean, obviously, lots of people have been for it, haven't they? They've been like, "Oh yeah, he needs to come back as the Demon," and he even turned around when he was in NXT and said, "I don't want to do that anymore. I don't want that anymore. I'm the priest now."
Yeah. I kind of get where he was coming from. I think he was enjoying doing the Prince character, and I think it's kind of not been that character on SmackDown as of yet. And I think he should be that character, but he should do the Demon at special occasions. Like, I think the problem with Finn is the fans almost, and me included, the fans want to see the Demon like we would see the Undertaker, where it was every time was like they don't want to see Finn Balor, they want it to be the Demon every time. And I think he was worried that if he agrees to do it once, Vince will be like, do it again. Look at the reaction you got. Look at the pop that you got. Look at the social media reaction that you've got.
Yeah, there's been a load of reports actually out this couple of days actually. Funny enough, you said the Undertaker. Apparently, he's also going to be there.
Yeah, I would be very surprised if he's not there. Look, and this is what I'm saying, and it's all right, people, AEW warriors making the argument, typical Vince, CM Punk come back to AEW, so Vince is straight on the phone, Becky, Brock, I need you, come on, and they're like, after AEW All Out was so good, he's definitely ringing the Undertaker for the Garden because it's the only card he can play. Yeah, but what a fucking card it is. Like, I'm not being funny. It doesn't matter what wrestling card. If you've got the Undertaker card in your back pocket, you're using it, right?
Yeah. But yeah, apparently he's going to be there. I don't know whether he's going to be in person or via satellite or whatever, but he's apparently going to be there.
Yeah, I think he's going to. I think he'll come out and do something. It'll be a nice little surprise. I mean, do you know what's funny though, Kev? I don't know whether it's just me, but whenever you think of WWE at the Garden, it's always Undertaker that pops into your head, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's always Undertaker when you think of Madison Square Garden.
They're sort of homegrown sort of thing, isn't it? Really, it's them going home sort of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd expect it to be quite good tonight.
Yeah, I think it's going to be. I think it'll be absolutely fantastic.
SmackDown has been pulling in the viewers. What was it last week? 2.2. So 2.2 million. So that's big numbers. SmackDown hasn't done those numbers for a long time. Neither has Raw. So they're obviously doing something well.
It's the show at the minute, SmackDown. It really is.
I think people have turned off of Rampage. Have you seen it? The one before All Out. So last week's Rampage. What is it? Just under 700,000 things. And on that show, you had Darby Allin and CM Punk on commentary, where they had a stare down, and they couldn't keep the numbers from the previous week. I don't know what happened there. People are turning off. They were obviously always going to do big numbers this week, obviously, because I think they were the number one show on cable Wednesday night, and they did the second biggest number since the debut episode of Dynamite. But that was always going to happen, having Adam Cole and Bryan Danielson on there. It's whether or not they can keep it. And also, keeping with the AEW thing, have you seen as well? So have you seen it started? It has started. Have you seen it?
What?
So Brian Cage's wife got on. She went off on one on Instagram. She done a video on Instagram saying that AEW are misusing him, and they need to stop misusing him.
Yeah, they are though.
And also, a report I saw today as well this morning is Andrade is also frustrated with the booking as well. So it's already started.
I kind of feel a little bit strange with Andrade because I don't know, mate. Something's missing with him. I can't quite put my finger on it. I think he's not got the it thing.
Yeah.
I think that's all I can put it there. The only thing about Andrade that I was never a fan of was his finisher. And I think I've said this to you before. It's a hammerlock DDT, and when you're so good, I mean, do you remember when he wrestled Ray 3 or 4 weeks in a row? He wrestled Rey Mysterio like 4 weeks in a row on Raw.
Yeah,
those matches were 5-star. I don't care what anyone says. Every single match that them two did was 5-star. They were incredible wrestling matches. Some of the shit that they did, but that for me is the problem with Andrade. Is you can't be that good where you're doing all, a Panama Sunrise and a Canadian Destroyer and all these mad, incredible moves that Ray were doing, and then his finisher is just a hammer. But when your finisher isn't as good as 10 of your signature moves that you've done earlier in the match, it kind of leaves a bit of a bad taste in your mouth with the ending of the match because it's such a good match, and then the finish is just a bit like, oh, well, that's a bit boring.
Yeah.
He needed to get a better finisher. It's like, look at Dean Ambrose. It's almost the same move. Ambrose just doesn't wrap his foot around his leg before he does the DDT. But Ambrose, obviously, the paradigm shift, it now really lifts him up into the air, and it's almost kind of like it's almost kind of like a one-armed pile driver, if you know what I mean, because he gets them completely vertical and then slams them into the ground. It's really impressive what he does now with the paradigm shift. But when he was on WWE and it was just the...
Maybe you couldn't do it on WWE because you know what they're like with moves and stuff like that. They, ban them and...
But what I'm saying is when he was on WWE, when it was the Dirty Deeds, it was just a DDT, but it looked great.
Yeah.
It looked great. Whereas I always found Andrade's hammerlock DDT really slow and just it wasn't as impressive as his other moves. But I feel like Andrade is missing that it thing because you can't deny the talent of him, and he did really well on NXT. Came up to the main roster, and then he had some great matches with Rey Mysterio, and then after that, everyone. I remember everyone going, "He's gonna have a massive career with how well he's just done against Mysterio." It just went flat, and then he eventually stopped being used, and then he went to AEW. But here's the thing: he signed with AEW about 3 months before he actually made his debut.
Yeah,
something isn't right with Andrade, and I don't really know what it is, but something is missing.
Well, like I said, the report come out and said that he was unhappy with his bookings for him.
So that's three that we know of then now, isn't it? Because you've just mentioned Brian Cage and Andrade, and a few weeks ago you also told me about Sammy Guevara being unhappy as well.
That was a while ago now. That was during the pandemic when they wanted him to go to Impact, and he even turned up. I've seen the reports and stuff. He even turned up at Impact and was not happy because they wanted him to win the X Division title and then not wrestle for it, just appear on TV and not wrestle. And he didn't want to do that. So there was a bit of a to and fro between AEW and Impact over it. And then eventually it got scrapped. But yeah, I mean, it's to have two so close together as well. It's a bit, I mean, they keep signing people. Also, as well, I don't know if you caught AEW this week, but obviously Bryan Danielson confronts Kenny Omega.
Yep.
And I saw someone put, oh yeah, cool. You know, we're going to have a title match between, Bryan Danielson. I keep saying that.
It's so hard not to.
Words mixed up, but yeah, he's Bryan Danielson, and Kenny Omega. And I put on the post actually. I put, so what does the ranking system mean? Shit now. Because CM Punk turned around and went, I want to start at the bottom. I want to climb up the rankings so I can earn my spot and I can go for it. Where Daniel Bryan's come in and looks like he's getting a title shot straight away. And I remember they said they were going to do these rankings, and it's a bit like, well, hang on a minute. He's not had one match yet, and now he's going to be feuding with with Kenny Omega. What does that mean? It's shit. Are they just blown out of the water? It means nothing now. What?
This is what I'm saying. The
WWE used to have a ranking system similar to that, and they scrapped it because of that problem. Because it meant if they brought someone new in, they would have to go up the ladder, sort of thing, instead of having a feud straight away. So they scrapped it.
But it doesn't take long though, does it? Like there are get-arounds with that, because what you do is if you bring someone big back, you have them have a match against someone who's in the top 10, and if they beat them. So like for example, AEW with Daniel Bryan say that the 10th ranked wrestler was Miro.
Yeah,
he wrestles Miro and beats him in a non-title match. So now if he's just beat top, Miro was 10, he now has to be number 10 because he just beat number 10. Okay. Then the week after, you have him wrestle number 5. Who, for argument's sake, let's say is, I don't know, Sammy Guevara, and he beats him, or Christian or Darby Allin or whatever. He beats them, so now he's 5th. And then the week after, he does 3rd, who's Darby Allin. He beats him, and then the number 1 ranked below the champion, who I think is actually Orange Cassidy.
Yes, it's Christian or Orange.
Them.
But then again,
I think Christian was ranked number 1, but he's just had the match against Kenny Omega, hasn't he, and lost.
Yeah. So the problem I see is that you're going to have a lot of those matches early on when you might want to save some of them for a pay-per-view. Because remember,
I get that.
AEW doing rematches, as they keep saying, no rematches here. You know what I mean?
I get that, but like on WWE, it is a lot more solid. AEW are constantly signing more and more and more and more and more, so it is more frantic. So if you brought someone back into the WWE fold to say that they re-signed Braun Strowman would now have to work his way up, and he would go. What I was trying to say was there's a way of bringing someone back and making them have 2 or 3 matches, and then being if they beat three people that are in that top 10 after the other, then he deserves that number one contender slot. But you're right about Brian though.
That's the thing with WWE. It's become a bit sort of stagnant, hasn't it? It's kind of like everyone keeps going, oh, we need new people. Biggie is still the Money in the Bank winner. He hasn't cashed in. I mean, what's he waiting for? He should be up there. But that's the problem. You've got AEW doing these fresh matches and people working their way up and all the ranking and that, where WWE it's a little bit sort of stagnant, isn't it? It's no sort of difference. Obviously, Finn Balor is everyone was crying out for, and then thought he was screwed over by John Cena when he come in and signed the contract. But now he's obviously getting his title shot at Extreme Rules. But once again, I don't see Roman dropping the title to Finn.
Not unless Finn does the Demon. No.
I don't. Well, it all depends how Brock Lesnar fits in. I think.
But for me, the worst thing that you can do is have Brock take the belt off Roman.
No. I don't think that should happen.
You can't. No, you can't. Brock's not full time enough.
Well, I think to solidify sort of Roman Reigns' reign as it is,
you have to beat Brock.
Yeah, it'd have to beat Brock. I mean, he had the big match that wasn't the big match that it should have been with him and The Undertaker. You know, he even turned around and said he would have, even Undertaker himself turned around and said he would have had his streak beaten by Roman Reigns, not Brock Lesnar. And he said he didn't understand that decision. Brock Lesnar didn't need it, but Roman Reigns did. And then when he did, it wasn't a big deal because he had already been beaten by Brock.
Exactly, and I'd be surprised if tonight at the Garden that isn't where Taker comes out, because it's the only two people to beat him at Mania. So you have Brock and Roman in the ring cutting a promo, and then Gong, and you know, Taker comes out, and not to get himself involved in the match. You know, it's a surprise for the fans, and it's, you know, you get a bit of a face to face, and I think you've got two options there. If you want to keep running with Roman, you have Roman beat Balor, but Finn Balor, don't have him, because the Demon King has never lost. So don't fucking have him do the Demon King and lose, because that will piss me off. Have him beat Finn Balor at Extreme Rules, and then have it against Brock, Survivor Series maybe.
You got Crown Jewel apparently.
Fucking Crown Jewel, man.
In October, apparently, yeah.
They are,
and that's where we're gonna have Brock. We're gonna have Bobby Lashley versus Goldberg, but apparently it's not going to be for the title. So that's going to be at Saudi. But yeah, you've got that as well. You've got to think so. But I don't know if Brock would turn up. I mean, he turned up last time, didn't he? And he left straight away, didn't he? He didn't stay around.
Yeah.
I remember everyone got stuck, didn't they, on the airport and that. And he made it back, and everyone was like, "How did he make it back?" He was like, "Well, I got a private plane, and I left before the show had finished, so I didn't get caught up in all of that."
But it did take like essential people that SmackDown needed with him.
Yeah.
So it fit on as many people on his plane as he could. And if you listen to Corey Graves' After the Bell, you would know that that night Brock Lesnar left his credit card details behind for everyone that works for WWE to have a drink on him. So Corey Graves went to order a drink. He went to pay for it and was like, "Oh, it's been paid for. Is that paid for by him?" And he said what was funny was the guy that works behind the bar obviously isn't a wrestling fan, so it was like a Brock Lesnar, whoever he is, you know. But he paid the whole tab for that night. You know, he's not as big of a prick as what people think. Like, the things have started to come out now about Brock. He has very, very much been kayfabe his entire career, and people have that opinion of him as being an arrogant, egotistical prick. And look, he has got an ego. He is arrogant. Yeah. I think the thing, you know, Becky Lynch saying that, you know, he said to her when she said, why do people not, you know, never ask you for advice? And he's like, I don't know, but people never ask me, but I'm here and available. And I think the best thing that could have happened for Brock was the last ride. I think that really showed a very different side of Brock, because when you see how close him and Undertaker are when they're talking backstage, and you could see how close they were, and you can see that he's not that bellend that what a lot of people thought that he was. And do you know what I loved was it's the first time that we found out that the the encounter that they had when Brock was fighting in the UFC was complete and utter bollocks, and everyone fell for it. I fell for it. For it. Everyone fell for that.
Came out in the crowd and started saying funny.
Yeah.
UFC.
It was amazing. So like Undertaker was there, but as Mark Calloway, he was there as himself because he's a UFC fan. And Brock had just retained his belt. Brock walks past him and they just fucking scowl at each other. And yeah, you want some? Come on, then anytime you want. And then like the bloke interviewing Taker was like, "What's going on there?" And he was like, there's a lot of issue there. We don't like each other. And then that was it. But every WWE fan watched that was like, fucking hell, these two do genuinely hate each other. And then you find out 10 years later, no, it was absolute bollocks. It's amazing.
It's the same thing, I think, that will come out eventually with the old CM Punk pipe bomb.
Yeah.
Was it real? Was it not? And, WWE did that. It wasn't. It was sort of, I think it was about a 50-50. I think they said to Punk, here's the mic, say what you want. Say anything.
Yeah, I agree.
Because, like I said, Triple H has been mentioned it a few times now, but he's always said,
did I cut the mic?
Do you really think we would allow him to say all that?
Exactly.
Oh, but you cut his mic. We would have just gone straight to commercial.
Yeah, there's also absolutely, mate.
Like, to hold that long on the mic and not cut to a commercial or not cut it off straight away.
They in Gorilla have complete control.
Yeah.
They can cut that mic off instantly. They can take it to commercial, whenever they want.
Not only that, they could have even turned the camera to something else. Or played a vignette or something like that, but they didn't.
Look, I agree with you. I've always said this, man. I've always said it, right? My granddad told my dad, and my dad told me, always believe half you see and half you hear. And it's a really famous phrase, and I've always lived my life like that. You believe half you see and half that you hear. And I think what I've took from that is I've took that a little bit of a step further. If two people are arguing and they have completely opposite opinions on something, I found through experience that usually the truth lies somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
It's always somewhere in the middle. And I think WWE will say, we wrote that promo. Everything he said, we told him to say. And Punk was like, I went out there, went completely off script. I said blah, blah, blah. So completely opposite ends of the extreme. Well, the truth probably does lie in the middle. And it like you've just said, that'll be 50-50. So Punk has gone out and said whatever he wants. And WWE have gone, this is great TV. Let's just sit back. Let's just sit back and enjoy this. And then
because it happened one night, and then it happened the following Raw, and the Raw after that, it happened 3 times, where you get on the mic and start chatting stuff, and it's like, why would you allow that to happen? The first time, for instance, but then why would you allow it to do it the second time and the third time?
Well, the genius of the first time I did it, the genius of it, and this for me shows just how incredible CM Punk is, how fast he can think on his feet, and how much of a genius he is, especially when it comes to promos. About halfway through, he looked right down the camera and says, "Oops, I'm breaking the fourth wall," and then waves down the camera. Now, you as a fan, if you're watching that, you're going, "Oh my god, he has." It's the unspeak, If you listen to any
real name,
if you listen to any my older actors, so like a Marlon Brando, someone like that, they were told, because obviously, the way that films were filmed has changed a lot over the years, and it was like kind of like the 50s and 60s and 70s, that era, as it started to change. The big actors from that generation was told, do not look down that camera. Don't look down the camera, because then it's obvious that you're playing to a camera. It needs to feel authentic. So the look anywhere but directly down that camera. So that's why Punk does that, because that's what they call it in the movies, never break that fourth wall. So that's why he looked down the camera and said, "I'm breaking the fourth wall, oops," and waved. So if you understand what breaking the fourth wall means, you go, "Holy fuck, he's done the unthinkable, he's done the unspeakable." Like you've just said, they had complete control. They could have just gone, boop, push that button, and cut his mic instantly. I've done anything, and they didn't. So I think you're right. I think it's 50-50. I think Punk did go out and just got a lot off his chest and said, well, what was on his mind. But I think Vince and Triple H allowed him to go, allowed him to,
Once they saw how much that got on all the platforms, social media, not only that, but like on TV, they asked him to do it again and then again. But you got to also think as well. You got to think that this all led up to the match at the match with John Cena, where he left WWE. He was out of contract, right? You got to think now. He said all these things, and he was like, "I hate it here. I can't say wrestling. All this sort of stuff." And then he goes, "I'm going to leave. When I leave, I'm taking the title with me." And then what? You know what I mean? Why would he then come back? Because I remember
exactly.
He came back, and everyone was like, "Why is he back?" I thought he left forever.
Exactly, this is what irritates me. Here's what irritates me is Punk. Punk had a lot of problems. He said that. I think what's difficult is there was a lot of shit stirring, and I think it was Miz. He's never actually said, because he said, "I'm never going to name names," but things that he said about, the timing of it and who were working at the time, and people had, he'd get into an argument backstage, and I'm 99% sure that he's talking about Miz, but he said that Miz would go, "I'm telling Taker on you," because Taker was the Godfather. Taker ran everything. It was Vince. Taker. You know what I mean? Taker ran the fucking entire locker room, and Miz would be like, "I'm going telling Taker what you've done," and all this shit. And I think Miz and a few other people, before Punk had even come up from FCW, I think people had already told, like, Triple H, "Punk's a problem. Punk's done this. Punk has said this about you. Punk says,
Yeah,
and
it's the thing that sort of plagued him, hasn't it? It's sort of even
that room's great.
He doesn't like. What about all the rumors that you're not very good to get along with? And he said, "Well, I'm here to do a job."
Yeah, but that ruined that. I can't remember his name. The trainer that WWE hired to go over to FCW to train them.
Yeah.
CM Punk, for like the first 10 years of his career, always drew the X on his bandages as a symbol for him being straight edge. It's a pen, a black pen, and he's doing an X on both hands. Like, it means nothing. But apparently, this trainer, whoever he was, this WWE trainer, who was highly thought of by Vince and Triple H, had told him to not do that because he didn't like it. And Punk was like, "It's a bit of pen on the back of a bandage. It's not a big deal. It's something that I always do. It's something that my fans recognise in me. I'm doing it." And he went out and did it. And because he ignored his trainer's advice, he hated him from then. So he's obviously then gone to Vince and, "Oh, he's unworkable and he's this and he's that and he's hard and blah, blah, blah." It's a bit of fucking pen on the back of a bandage, mate. Grow up. And I think that was the problem with Vince, was that the trainers that he had before he even come up was saying that he doesn't do as he's told, this and that and the other. I think with Triple H, it was he said, she said. So I think people was running to Triple H and Punk has said this, Punk said that. And then as CM Punk gets called up, there's people going, "Triple H can't stand you. He thinks you're a right prick."
Yeah.
Before they've even met, before they've even spoke, people have been stirring that shit. And I think that ruined a lot of it, because Punk only wanted to go and heel. And he said, it's first time he's ever spoke about it, first time in 7 years, the first oral sessions on YouTube, check it out if you've not seen it on YouTube, with Renee Paquette. The first one he did, he said, I never left. I never left WWE. I honestly thought I was going for a break and I was healing. I was finally getting the break that I needed. I was healing my body up. I was waiting every single day. After it had been about a month, I was waiting for a phone call. And then the morning of his wedding, he receives he received a first class parcel from FedEx that he clearly paid extra for to make sure that it got there that day, the morning of his wedding, and it was his release papers. And Vince to this day says, "Oh, it was an oversight. You know, bollocks. It was a FedEx van that you pay extra for to pick exactly the date and time that you want that parcel to be delivered to."
I don't necessarily think that Vince is the one that says,
no, someone has done that with WWE, though.
You're fired, because what happened with Mickie James is a perfect example. You know, she got a black bag, and Vince then went nuts about it and fired 3 people, I do believe. And he was like, "That's not how we treat people. I asked you to get rid of her, not to like disrespect her or all that sort of shit."
But I think CM Punk wasn't an oversight. I think someone, maybe not Vince, but someone higher up in WWE has gone, "I'm going to shit all over him." But like it was a special delivery FedEx parcel that arrived. Like they've specifically made sure that arrived the morning of his wedding to piss him off. And I think what annoys me about that is this relationship could have been fixed 7 years ago before he even left. And Punk said he honestly thought that someone from WWE would ring him and go, "When are you coming back?" He said, I honestly, hand on heart, did not for a second think that I was leaving. I just needed some time off to sort my head out and heal my body up." And they released him. But look, I feel like this is what Vince does. And I'm going to ask you a question now, right? What does Punk and Aleister Black, that was a shock release, and Bray Wyatt, that was a shock release, Chris Jericho, what do they all have in common? They're not yes men. They will fucking fight for what they believe is best for their character.
I think Braun Strowman is.
Yeah. That I think Braun was very, very much a yes man. That one did surprise me, but he did have a lot of injuries. I think this is what people don't realize. He had so many injuries that I think they were going. I think they were doing scans on him and they were thinking, "This guy's fucking falling apart."
Yeah,
he had hip problems. Look, he's almost 7 foot tall, but he's an ex-buddy. You know, he was an ex-world strongest man. You know, competitor. The amount of punishment that he's put his joints and his muscles through, I think his body's already deteriorating on him. But if you look at Bray Wyatt and CM Punk and Aleister Black and Chris Jericho and those four people in particular, like I know Jericho happened a few years ago, Punk happened a few years before that. Obviously, Aleister Black and Bray Wyatt are very recent, but they like. You know, you listen to Aleister Black on his Twitch stream. It's why he said that he respects Bray Wyatt so much, because Bray, when he's doing the Fiend, when he's doing the Firefly Funhouse, whatever it is he's doing, Bray will fight against them. So as we were saying on our video that we did a few days ago, WWE Creative suck donkey dick. They are absolutely dog shit. So when they were coming up with this bullshit, Bray'd go, "I ain't fucking saying that." Dean Ambrose was like, "I ain't fucking saying that. No, I'm not doing it."
The whole market and everything that he hated.
Yeah, I feel like Punk, Ambrose, Bray Wyatt, Aleister Black, these are people that Bruce Pritchard, Paul Heyman, Nick Khan, Shane McMahon, Stephanie McMahon, Triple H, Road Dogg, Shawn Michaels, Vince McMahon, the whole shebang, the whole crew, all the top dogs, they must, even though it's Bray Wyatt and he's so good, right? They must be going, "Fucking Bray again. Can I have 1 week without you coming mithering me, bro?" Like Vince must be going, "Bray, just fuck off. Give me 1 week where you're not knocking on my door. Creative are telling me to say this." Like Vince, all of them must go, "Just do your fucking job." Now, we as fans are on Bray's side because we know that the creative drive sucks. But you've got to put yourself in Triple H and Vince McMahon's shoes. They've got so much on the plate. They've got 5 seconds free.
Well, you know, Breeze said that, didn't he? He came out and said,
"Yeah,
they pay your." He goes, "You know, they pay your fucking wages." He said, "If they tell you to go out there dressed as a donut, go out there and dress as a donut. That's what they pay you to do, regardless."
Yeah.
He goes, "All these people whining." He goes, they paid you, didn't they? They did pay you. They paid you money. They paying your wages, and you're telling them no. That's your boss. You do as you know. I know how bad it is, and it sounds bad, but you know what I mean. You do as your boss are, really, didn't you? You have to, even if you think it's wrong, you argue your point.
Of course,
you
you've got to do what your boss says.
Because you get people coming into your and they'll go, "Oh, I want to do this," and he's like, "Well, look, we can stand here 20 minutes arguing, or you can just do it.
Or you can just do it, this is our problem, right? Is we agree with both sides of that argument. It's so fucking hard because, I agree with everything Breeze has said, and he's fucking right. At the end of the day, Vince McMahon is your boss. If he says, you go out there and piss yourself, go out and do it. That's your job. Like, you get paid money to not say no. Okay, yes, I'll do. But at the same time, you can't blame people who know better going, I ain't saying that. That's shit.
Yeah.
Because they can't win because Seth Rollins is 100% a yes man, but he's doing better with his Messiah stuff, and I've got a sneaky feeling over the last couple of years Seth has been allowed a little bit more control over what he does say in his promos, but he does still slip up. He stumbles on his words, or he'll say something that's just so corny and cheesy, and it's just like, oh my God, I'm gonna vomit. That's so corny and cheesy. It's awful, and you can tell that. You can tell that he's been forced to say that. So, like, them as performers, they can't win. If they say, no, that sucks, I'm not saying it, they're then pissing the bosses off and are going to eventually get sacked if they keep doing it. But if they keep going out there saying this bollocks that everyone hates, the fans are going, that's shit.
Yeah.
So what do you do if you so like, for me at the minute, I think this is where Kevin Owens falls. I think this is why he's not on TV much at the minute. And I know he's done like the Kevin Owens show and stuff, but again, I'm not being funny. Fucking Logan Paul had more lines. Logan fucking Paul had more lines in that segment than what Kevin Owens did. Why? Probably because Kevin Owens is the sort of guy, hence why they're probably going to be getting rid of him in January, where Kevin Owens is going, I ain't saying that. That's awful. Give me something. Give me a good script. I'll say it. But if not, let me do it.
He has said that. People within WWE believe that he will walk away when his contract ends. The same for Sami Zayn as well.
Massively underused.
But if they went to AEW, because everyone's going to say it before everyone's going to AEW. I even said it as a joke, and I put. Kevin Owens is going AEW confirmed. But where would they fit in? Where would they slip in with everybody else and everything else there? That obviously people are already getting now, not getting TV time.
I agree with you completely.
So where would they go? Even some of the AEW stars don't want to go on Impact, and some of the Impact stars are saying, "Well, the door's open, but it's only for the few." I think some of the actual women were saying that. Deanna Prazo and people like that were saying, the forbidden door's open. Yeah, only for the male stars and only for a few. I want to appear on AEW, but why can't I? You know what I mean? I am the knockout champion, but I haven't appeared on AEW. Why? No?
It's such. Kevin Owens is my favorite WWE superstar, but there's that many in AEW who's not, and he shouldn't go straight in and get a title shot. I feel like because it's been like 5 years since his last his last title reign, I think a talent like that should have been winning a Money in the Bank and should have been winning a Royal Rumble and things like that. But I've got a really pretty big question for you actually that's been really going around the last couple of days. Of course, I think everyone watching this video, me and Kev, send our best wishes out to Triple H after what has happened. Really scary. Again, I don't know if it's true. It was only a Twitter thing. I don't know how reliable the account is, but apparently he did have a heart attack. His heart stopped beating. He'd collapsed at home. Stephanie McMahon found him. Fucking, can you imagine? Can you imagine walking into the kitchen and seeing the person that you love on the floor, fucking pretty much dead? Awful, absolutely awful. And we do, but I didn't make a joke out of it, but I put something very similar in our group about it. And what's annoying me is like even Sean Rossappa said it, and it's a bit like, mate, fucking grow up. Like you can't say anything now without, well, that's not something to joke about. Triple H has had a very serious heart condition, and people are joking about it, about he's only had a heart attack because of like people that are saying that are morons. Like at the end of the day, it states there an undiagnosed genetic heart condition. So he's obviously been born with a slight heart deformity, and it's got to the point where his heart's took too much stress. Amazingly, has lasted this long if he's got a genetic heart condition, given what he's done for the last 30 years. It's amazing that his heart's held out this long. But at the same time, I've got to make the point, and I've got to ask you a question. Anyone that is actually making a joke out of it, well, you just scum, because this is someone that, whether you like Triple H or not, whether you're a wrestling fan or not, this guy could have, it's a human being that nearly died. That, like, don't joke about that shit. But people saying, like the point I made was, well, all this shit that's been going on with NXT the last few weeks wouldn't have helped. Now, I'm going to ask you directly, I know he's got a genetic heart condition, but it doesn't take a genius to work out that this has probably been the most stressful couple of weeks for Triple H in his entire life. NXT was his brainchild. Yeah. He created NXT. This was his thing, his baby. And basically, his boss, his father-in-law, has gone, taking that away from you because you're shit. That is basically what has happened. You're taking a back seat. Me and Pritchard are running it because you're not doing a good enough job. NXT was Triple H's, and he's had it taken off him. Is that not going to cause a massive amount of stress?
Well, yeah, of course it is, because you've also got to think that I think he signed Samoa and Joe, didn't he? Yeah. Which I'll guarantee probably didn't go down very well.
Apparently not. Yeah, apparently not. Apparently it didn't.
Then the viewing figures fell after, like some weeks they would beat AEW, other weeks didn't, and then AEW just took the lead, which I think they should have done, because that's the third brand that's NXT. If your main show, it's a bit like Monday Night Raw going up against it. If your main show can't beat the brand of competition, as you keep putting it, then there's a problem. But they were beating it. That wasn't. I don't think that wasn't NXT's fault. I just thought they were on the same night. I mean, they tried swapping it, didn't they? They swapped it to Tuesday nights, but the viewing figures never changed. It never recovered. It never recovered. And the viewing figures, like you're saying, it's the best wrestling show. And the storylines and all that. Watches it, and this is the point. But
if people did start tuning in and watching it, people go, "Fucking hell, this is good," and would carry on watching it.
Yeah,
I think it comes down to time, and I think people go, "I'll watch Raw, SmackDown, and the pay-per-views because I've just not got time." Like you just said, if you're a wrestling fan and you're watching AEW as well, there's only so much time, and I think NXT has fell victim to not it being worse. Just, well, I'm already watching 2 WWE shows, so I want to watch AEW because it's different to WWE. So I'm gonna forget NXT. I think that's what's happened. And like you just said, like it's like, have you seen all the shit with Carl Anderson? All the stuff he was putting on Twitter. Where he was,
Jesus!
Seen all the storm.
Mate, he is never. I guarantee, hands down, they are never coming back to WWE ever. He's never going to step.
Who was it?
Everyone's telling him as well. Everyone, when he was tweeting, everyone was like, "You got to shut up. Just go away. Why are you saying these things? Shut your mouth."
Did you see what Sean Ross Sapp said? He commented on one of. I know Carl Anderson's,
didn't he?
Well, Carl Anderson had put something really like.
That's what I've got. It does sound like he just won't let it go. He's one of those people. Like, well, you had it all there and you gave it all away.
Yeah, but will Carl Anderson had put something that was like really like nasty and horrible, and it was just like you're making yourself look a dick now. And Sean Ross Sapp just commented on it.
not Duffy that recently sadly passed away, but it was after the last. I can't remember. I must apologise. I can't remember, but it was after someone took their own life, and he was criticising that there weren't enough in place.
I think it was Daphne.
Was it?
I think it was Daphne. Yeah, I think it was Daphne.
And he was,
but it was after that. It kept going on, and not like people was. So someone would go, "Carl, what the fuck are you really taking the piss out of someone?" And he'd reply with some just vile abuse. And Sean Ross Sapp commented on one of them after about an hour of Anderson just digging himself a deep hole. And Sean Ross Sapp just put, "Will someone please take Carl Anderson's phone off him?"
Yeah,
because it was honestly, it was. I mean, hey, it made fucking good reading. Do you know what I mean? It made good drama. I enjoyed reading it, but it's like, you know, things that, you know, Carl Anderson was saying. It was just like, mate, you're supposed to be the grown up. You're supposed to be the role model. You're supposed to be the people that kids are watching on TV and aspiring to be like. And do you know what? Do you know what I thought in all this? Like, his comment back to some of them was like, the only reason why you're messaging me is because you go to bed dreaming every night of possibly maybe one day walking out in the ring with the great Carl Anderson. I'm like, mate, you fucking shit. You're not even a good wrestler. You're average. You got to remember, average.
We're the world's greatest tag team. Remember that?
Win the cup. Yeah, they did. Yeah, they did. But do you know what I found funny? Someone replied to him, and I thought that's fucking brilliant because it's so true. If someone put, Carl, if it wasn't for Finn Balor, you wouldn't even be known. You probably wouldn't even be wrestling anymore because. Yeah. It was Finn Balor who obviously restarted the Bullet Club in Japan. He pulled Anderson and Gallows in, and then Balor left and AJ Styles joined, and then obviously people left, and obviously then it was like Adam Cole, Kenny Omega, Young Bucks. Obviously people was then in Bullet Club after that. But it was Finn Balor who created Bullet Club and just basically dragged Carl Anderson in because they were mates. It weren't about Anderson being good; they were just friends. And Balor went, "I'll get you some TV time, mate." Yeah. And that was how his career. He's not even like the way we talk. Like you would dream. Like you're all just jealous. You all dream of one day walking down to the ring with the great Carl. You're a prick and you shit.
I mean, it's going to happen soon, and obviously the partnership will end because with Impact, and then it's like, well, what happens then? Because they'll be back on Impact and they won't be in AEW anymore.
Yeah, good mate. It can't happen soon enough. And I think Tony Khan. I'm surprised he was on Dynamite on Wednesday too. I'll be honest. I'm surprised that Tony Khan had him on it because some of the stuff that he was saying was just vile.
This is what I mean. There's gonna be a thing like that. Like I said, there's gonna be. When I talked about there's going to be a storm, it's going to be something like that, or where the viewerships dip, viewership, you know, can they weather enough to go through a low patch, like a bit like what Raw went through with the low ratings, and so the SmackDown and things like that. Obviously, WWE have weathered things like that before, but I'm wondering if AEW could recover from that sort of thing without having a big debut. You've got to think, look at the numbers for Rampage. You know, it's going to be interesting this, obviously, Friday, because I'll be interested to see the figures, because you've got the match that was supposed to be at All Out, which is obviously Puck versus Andrade. So it's going to. I'll be seeing, but it's strange. Like I said before, didn't I? They had like over. Punk was there. They had 1.1 million views, and then the following week 700,000, and then 600,000. It's like dropping off, and it's like, creatively, what are they doing? Why? I saw a lot of people saying actually it was because last week the viewers figures were down because it was Labor Day, and everyone went, but SmackDown did 2.2 last week.
But for me, that's the issue. Is like, you know, it's like it was. Carl Anderson did mention it. I think Chris Jericho has mentioned it as well, which, you know, I love Jericho, but there's been 4 or 5 AEW wrestlers. I think Dash Wilder might have mentioned it as well, where they're saying, I thought we were supposed to be having Wednesday Night Wars. That didn't last long because you were getting your ass kicked every week. And I'm like, yeah, so you fucking should.
Yeah.
Dynamite is your flagship show.
Yeah, that's what I said earlier.
Yeah, and NXT is the third show, which is what you said. But like,
developmental, isn't it? So it's like they're upcoming stars, not even their main people there.
But let me throw it to you another way. My point that I wanted to piggyback on to I'm just adding on to what you said earlier. That was what you said earlier. What I want to add to that is SmackDown is WWE's second show. Dynamite is AEW's first. Have Dynamite been anywhere near 2.2 million ever?
No, they've never even beaten the Raw ratings on a Monday.
But that for me is why I want to just slap some of these idiots that just go on and on and on about AEW being so good and WWE being so shit. Look at the views and ratings. AEW's flagship show, right? You know, we're struggling for a while because it was like that. It was going back and forth between WWE's third show for a while. It's in half or less than half of the views of SmackDown, which is WWE's second show. But for me, the biggest slap in the face to AEW, which makes me go, is AEW that great? Because to me, it doesn't look like it. Because I would say 90% of Raw for the last year has been fucking unwatchable. It's been that bad. Still getting more views than Dynamite, though.
Yeah. It has slightly gone up, Dynamite, but then that's because you got to think this week's Dynamite, you had Adam Cole and Daniel Bryan and CM Punk all on it all at once. So the viewing figures were going to go up. But Raw still got more views, though it was climbing slowly. It's quite behind, you know, it's quite close, I've got to say. But Raw's still beating it.
But Kev shouldn't. You've just said it's got CM Punk on, who I know he's been on it like 4 or 5 times. I would get that, but this is Punk who's been gone for 7 years. I don't think that the magic of Punk has worn off yet. So it's still got Punk. That's going to draw more people. But it was Adam Cole and Bryan Danielson's debut Dynamite, and it still didn't beat Raw, and Raw was absolute trash this week.
WWE spokesman came out and they asked him, what did WWE think? It was a post, I think it was done on the dirt sheet actually. They asked someone in WWE what they felt like with the numbers of AEW of Rampage and Dynamite, and they said they're doing exactly what we expected them to do. We expected once they debut to go up, obviously, but then it all sort of wear off. And they said the worst thing they done. They said this is going to be AEW's undoing, and the worst thing they done was debuting Cole and Bryan Danielson on the same night, so close.
I didn't get that.
So close. Well, returning CM Punk, and they said what will happen is all the hype. They were hoping that the hype will go. It will go up. The ratings will go up, but it will die off because people will just go, okay, we've seen it now.
Yeah.
But
debuting Bryan and Cole so close to Punk is one thing, mate. They fucking debuted Cole and Bryan within 3 minutes of each other. Well, this is it. And not only that, you also got to think. Lots of people are like, oh my god, Bryan Danielson and see, you know, there was like these debuts. Hang on, there was Ruby Soho as well. Yeah. She made her debut on that show. Totally forgotten already. That fucked me off. Like all you would see everywhere the day after was Adam Cole, Bryan Danielson. She never got mentioned, and it's like, you fucking bastards, because she's so talented.
She made really good vignettes where she was leaving everything behind, and she sold a car and all that sort of stuff. And she made the big debut, and It was right at the start of the show because that's when the Casino Royale was.
Yeah.
And it killed it because everyone remembers that show, not because of Ruby Soho coming in, but because of Bryan Danielson and Adam Cole. And she was completely forgotten about. And the problem is the momentum that she should have had is now gone.
Yeah. But you're also like, this is Adam Cole and Bryan Danielson. Why would you not save one of them for Dynamite? Like, I'd have brought Bryan Danielson out as they did, but then bring Adam Cole out on Dynamite, because you'd have been expecting that.
Yeah.
You know, the pop for Bryan Danielson then wasn't as big as it should have been because they've just popped from Adam Cole.
The problem is as well, I think they've got to face is Daniel Bryan, we haven't seen wrestle for ages. Same with CM Punk. Ruby Soho, we haven't either. So they're like, oh, they're nice and fresh. Adam Cole, we saw a couple of months ago wrestling in NXT. We've already seen him wrestling.
Weeks.
Yeah, so it's not as a big deal. Oh, he's going to be wrestling so. Yeah, but we only saw him a couple of weeks ago in NXT. He hasn't been away. There hasn't been a big lull.
He's just wrestled Kyle O'Reilly at TakeOver.
Yeah, a couple of weeks ago.
3 weeks ago?
Yeah. And I think that, like what the WWE the spokesman turned around and said, was their planning, which seems to be on par, is that it will die down. That people will go, yeah, Daniel Bryan, and then go, right, okay, now what? You know what I mean? They have been saying that AEW crowds have been massively better than WWE's. But in terms of viewership, stuff like that, WWE's killing it, right? Always, it has been. But you know, I think like what we've mentioned lots of times, I think the thing that kills Raw is the 3 hour slot. I think if they went to 2 hours, I think the numbers would go up. I think they could cram in a little bit less, maybe, and it wouldn't be such a drain.
I think Raw would be a really good show if they lowered it to 2 hours. Yeah,
it needs to be. But with AEW, I think they've now... See, WWE used to have a roster that big, and you couldn't fit everyone on. I mean, someone actually this week turned around... It was funny because someone turned around, I think it was yesterday, and said, where's Lance Archer? What's happened to him? And then... as soon as that was said, someone put it out on Twitter. They announced he's on Dynamite this coming week, and I was like, "But he's not been there for a month, I reckon." What happened there?
Yeah, and he just took the belt off Mox and all.
Yeah, and not only that,
just like
a lot of people were upset with Daniel Bryan as well. I saw a lot of Twitter feeds on this as well. Is that they were like, "Well, what about Adam Page? I thought he was in line for a title shot, and Daniel Bryan's come in and he seems to be getting in a feud already." But yeah.
But the issue is you don't sign Bryan Danielson, which is probably you don't sign Bryan Danielson, which is probably one of the biggest signings that they've had, simply because. Go back 6 months ago, someone would have said AEW are going to sign Daniel Bryan, and you'd have gone, fuck off.
Yeah.
You know, it was unthinkable that he'd ever leave WWE. So it's probably the biggest signing that they've done. You don't sign Bryan Danielson and then straight away give him a title match against Omega to have Omega beat him. So you know Bryan's now winning the belt, and it's just like.
It was a bit like the All Out match with obviously CM Punk and Darby Allin, which has now been so analysed that actually the whole match was the 1-2-3 Kid versus Bret Hart. Now,
you've seen it, yeah.
Have you seen that? Every move in that match was the 1-2-3 Kid versus Bret Hart. It's a match we've already seen, and someone already watched it and went, "Hang on a minute, they're just copying everything Bret Hart did." And 1-2-3 Kid, and someone done it. Someone's actually put it on
side by side. That's what I've seen.
Identical.
But what I don't understand is how has anyone noticed that? I wouldn't. I've been watching wrestling for 25 years, mate. I could not watch a match and go, That is exactly the same as a match that was on 2 weeks ago. They're going back fucking 30 years.
Yeah. Even to the bit, right, where Darby Allin clotheslines
I've seen
Punk,
it.
and then he sits up and he goes,
amazing.
he sits up and he goes, right, now that same thing happened. 1, 2, 3 kick, clotheslines Bret Hart. Bret Hart goes down. He sits up and goes, like, I don't believe this. And it's the same thing. It was like they watched the match before going out and doing it. They're like, this match, we're doing this whole thing.
But how was a wrestling fan noticed that?
Never underestimate wrestling fans, I tell you, because they come up.
Mate, how many years ago was that match? 25 years ago.
Yeah, it was very early on Monday Night Raw. It was 93. 1993.
So 28 years ago. Like, how was someone watched the Punk Allen match and gone, oh, that is identical to a match that I watched 28 years ago? What?
Yeah, literally the whole match, near enough move to move, except for the end, was that match. So lots of people have said, well, that's laziness. Why have you not come up with something different? Why have you have to? And everyone's like, well, it's a homage. No, it's not. You just copied what they did in WWE. But there was two other things I want to point out just before we go.
Yeah.
The first one was CM Punk was photographed with Ruby Soho, and he put, here, we're allowed to wear what we want. And he got a lot of stick for it because CM Punk was wearing a Macho Man Randy Savage top. It was actually a WWE shop bought Randy Savage top. And everyone was like, hang on a minute, why aren't you wearing an AEW top or one of your own ones? And you're wearing a WWE one from the web shop you can actually go and buy still. And he was standing there wearing it in a proper press conference for AEW. They got a bit of stick for that.
Yeah, but here we can wear what we want. You go and look at the gear that Ruby Soho wore. Was that any different to what Ruby Riott wore?
No. Well, the gear on TV was the same. It's the same a bit like with 2.0. They wear the same gear as well, don't they? They had in NXT. But yeah, there was that. So he got a bit of criticism for that. And also, just before actually coming on here, I saw Ric Flair had tweeted out. Someone put, so I suppose you're going to AEW and Charlotte's going as well. And he's actually gone on record now, Ric Flair, and said Charlotte's going nowhere. He said she's the happiest she's ever been in that company, and she loves it. She will never leave. She is a WWE lifer. That's coming from Ric Flair.
Good.
I'll tweet you the picture later.
But Kev, good, because what would Charlotte have achieved at AEW? Because they just shit on the fucking women.
Yeah.
So, like, it's like I've fucking seen loads of things on Facebook and primarily on Twitter saying Ruby Soho's finally going to get the career that WWE took away from her. Why? What do AEW give women ever?
Yeah, and you can see this by how they booked Britt Baker. She's their champion, yet doesn't seem to have a match ever.
I'm not being funny, Kev. They've got Thunder Rosa, right?
Yeah.
Thunder Rosa on Raw or SmackDown is champion or right up there.
Yeah.
It never gets used.
No. And not only that, you had that, but you can also tell as well is that they had Ruby Soho come out on obviously All Out, and most people have already forgotten. It's like she's lost momentum, and they don't get.
Yeah.
I mean, what is there? One match on the whole show for a women's match, if they get a match at all, because there's been a few Dynamites which have been like, all men, haven't there? It's not been any women at all wrestle on it.
Yeah.
They've been left to places like Dark and Elevation, which I've said before, and a lot of people have called me up on it, where I've said I don't watch them. Well, why don't you watch them now on YouTube? Because I don't. Who does?
Well, I don't know anyone. I don't know anyone who watches them, and the simple answer to that is there's no fucking time.
Well, no.
There's no time.
No.
I could not physically watch any more than what I'm watching at the minute because I really struggle watching what I'm watching at the minute.
Watch what we watch, which are obviously the three main WWE shows and Dynamite. I think I would struggle to fit in Rampage, and I'm obviously struggling to fit in NXT UK, which I haven't watched for nearly 2 months now. So it's not on NXT UK. It's just because there's so much on.
I'm struggling to watch AEW. In all honesty, I want to watch it. I have to fit the fucker in. There's too much wrestling.
A lot of people are like, oh, but you can get this Fire app and you can watch it online, and I'm like, okay, but I've got a family, a job, dogs, a house, everything else that comes with that. I mean, it's all right when you're living at home with your mum, you've got nothing to do but watch wrestling. But when you got all these other things and you want to go out shopping, you want to go out and see mates and all that sort of stuff, it's just not enough time. Not enough time.
No,
I think that's what's affecting wrestling at the moment. Isn't it the fact that there's loads of good content out there and there's loads of good stuff? It's just that people haven't got the bloody time to watch it all.
But look at me and you, for example. I think I'm right in saying both me and you enjoy doing this wrestling show more than what we enjoy watching 95% of the actual shit that's on at the minute, right?
Yeah.
But have we not in the past had to cancel scheduled recordings because one of us hasn't been able to watch the thing that we wanted to review?
Yeah, a pay-per-view.
Time to. Yeah, so the thing, us doing this and us chatting about it is the thing that we enjoy the most about it. But we can't do this as often as we want because we've not had time to watch what we need to review and talk about because there's just far too much now. It's far too much wrestling. You know, I miss back in the day when I was a kid. There was one pay-per-view a month. Raw was Monday night, SmackDown was a Friday night, because then you miss it. You watch Raw on a Monday, and then by Friday, you've had enough time to miss it. Then you're excited about it. Now it's Raw Monday, NXT Tuesday, AEW Wednesday, SmackDown and Rampage Friday.
Yeah, and then you've got NXT UK as well on a Thursday. And Impact as well on a Thursday as well.
Yeah. And then Rampage and SmackDown Friday. And then, one of them will have a pay-per-view most weekends. I was going to say one
of them will have a pay-per-view over on a Saturday or a Sunday.
It's far too much. It's far, like that. My oldest love and passion is wrestling. I fell in love with wrestling before I fell in love with football. But as much as I love football, throughout the COVID area where there were no fans there, so every game was televised, at the start, for the first 3 or 4 weeks, I was like, this is great, I can watch every match. And I watched every single match. Mate, honestly, after about 3 weeks, I was like, I don't even want to watch my own team at the minute. I'm bored. It's too much. It's football overload. Far too much. It's like, I've watched bits of the England games, but I've purposely not watched them properly because now I'm looking forward to watching football this weekend. For me, this is where wrestling's at now. It's just there's far too much of it. I feel like there needs to be less of it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Well, anyway, maybe we can like pick this up next time. Because it's coming on now. Because there's lots to talk about, and we'll be back next time. But yeah, we'll have to leave it there, mate. We'll have to leave it there.
Fine, mate.
Yeah, but obviously, I've been Kev.
I've been Dan. See you soon, people.
See you at the next time. Hang on a second. This is not playing properly. Right.